Good morning, students. I hope you must have watched the first part of textual explanation of the third level, which I uploaded yesterday. In that part, we discussed that authorities of the Grand Central Station uh, had this firm declaration that there was no third level of the Grand Central Station. But Charlie believes that he had taken the first step. He rather declares it that he obviously had been there. His psychiatrist friend Sam had a different opinion. He believed that Charlie was unhappy in his life and the feeling of insecurity, the world war around, and worries have made him take a temporary refuge from reality in stamp collection. However, Charlie opposes this point, says that his grandfather started his collection of stamps, and at his time things were perfectly fine. And when he was returning back from his office on that day, his only objective was to reach his wife Louisa in time, and like a routine, he took the subway, and he entered at a level which he never expected was there. And he had certain observation at the third level. A few we discussed in the first part, like the open flame gaslight. Then the booking windows were wooden. The next part we'll be discussing today. In this part, we'll come to know that his more observations about the third level, the evidence he comes across, and the money he exchanges, and the ultimate surprise at the end. There were brass spittoons on the floor and across the station, means a jar for spitting in, that is the seventh point, and across the station, a shade of shine of light caught my attention. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. So notice it is a gold watch made of gold and not golden in color. Vest is men's undershirt. He snapped it open, opened it with a jerk. The cover glanced at his watch and frowned, means wrinkled forehead, train might have been late. He wore a derby hat, round and hard hat, a black four-button suit with the tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar, huge round moustache. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 something. I mean, the dressing style was of that time. I never saw so many beards, sideburns. Sideburns are the hair near your ear and at your face, and many fancy mustaches, big mustaches. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with the leg of mutton of sleeves, with long shoes, and skirts to the top of her high button shoes. Back of her, out on the tracks, means rail tracks, I caught the glimpse of a rail engine, a very small Carrera Knives locomotive with a funnel shaped chimney shape stack, and then I knew what that he was at the third level. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of bundle of paper at his feet. It was the world, and the world hasn't been published for years. The lead story, the headline, said something about President Cleveland. I have found that front page since in the public library file, and it was printed June 11, 1894. So through those evidences, he could believe that he was the third level, and through this evidence, he knew, that is of the newspaper, that he was at a time which was of late 19th century, that is 1894. I turned towards the ticket windows, knowing that here on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go in the year 1894, and I wanted two tickets to Galsworth. That means he wanted to go across America with his wife. Have you ever been there? Then now comes a point which shows that how social interaction, natural surrounding, uh, are important for human beings. It's a wonderful town still, means even present time, with big old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous huge trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the street, shelter the street. You must have seen on highway that how the trees on both sides of the road, their top meet overhead and shelter the streets. It's quite a common sight in Chandigarh. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long. I mean, people, the evening was not long. People interacted with each other for a long time, and people sat out on their lawns. So there was no fear of war or worry. The men smoking cigars and talking quietly. They were not argumentative, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around. So it's a pleasant scene up in a peaceful world. No worry, no fear, no war, no insecurity. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off. Okay, so it happened in 1914, so it was 1894, so 20 years off, and World War II 1939. So, and over 40 years in the future. So I wanted two tickets for that. So this shows I wanted two tickets for that. And description of all these elements, quiet talking, women waving palm leaf fans, okay, hand shaped large leaf fans means hand fans, and fireflies around. There is peace. All these elements shows Charlie's desire to escape indirectly. And here he mentioned also, I wanted two tickets for that. The clerk figured the fare, calculated the fare. He glanced at my fancy hatband, looked for a moment at his decorative hatband, but he figured, calculated the fare, and I had enough for two coach tickets one way, but means he would go and he wouldn't be able to come back. He had that much money. But when I counted out the money, this also shows that he wanted to escape, that he was taking tickets for a place that he won't be able to come back to from. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was looking at him intently. Intently. He said, that ain't money, mister, isn't money. He said, and if you are trying to skin me, cheat me, you won't get very far. You won't be able to escape cheating me. You won't go any further. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him by his side. Of course, the money was old style currency, half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different looking, half in size. It was different in looks. I turned away and got out immediately. There is nothing nice about jail, even in 1894. So that is how he came out of the third level, and that was that. And this is how it happened. I left the same way I came, I suppose. Next day during lunch hour, this word is actually pronounced as R and hour both. As a single word, it is hour. As in a running sentence, it is R. Similarly, it's with flour, tar, tal. I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old currency. That is, really worried my psychiatrist friend. Why did it worry his psychiatrist friend? Because that would prove that it was not a waking dream wish fulfillment. It was not his hallucination. It actually happened. So you can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay premium, some in addition. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills. Say if it is 184, then he paid $116 as premium. But I didn't care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. That means money had more value. But I have never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station, although I have tried often enough. This I have tried often enough goes both ways. It shows Charlie's desire to go to the world of the third level, and it also shows that when he intended to escape, he could not. It happened all of a sudden. Means he just walked into the third level. Louisa was pretty worried. Why? Because she must have this thought that Charlie may not come back. When I told her all this and didn't want me to look for the third level anymore, after a while I stopped. Means I didn't look for it anymore. I went back to my stamps. This shows that when he could not get the permanent escape, he went to the temporary refuge from reality, that is stamp collection. But now we are both looking. We here means Loisa and Charlie. Even every weekend means every Saturday, Sunday, because now we have proof, evidence that third level is still there. My friend Sam Winner disappeared. Nobody knew where, but I sort of doubted because Sam is a city boy and I used to tell him about Galsburg. I went to school there, and he always said he liked the sound of the place, the sound of birds, and that's where he is. All right, in 1894. So Sam, another character, has traveled to the third level because one night fussing with my stamp collection. Now, these two happenings show the science fiction in practice. Means another character also travel back to time, travel back to space. Because one night fussing with my stamp very excessively when you say that there is something missing and something added. I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? So here it is the ready answer of first day cover. When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale of the stamp. And the postmark proves, the postage stamp proves the date. The envelope is called a first day cover. They are never opened. Uh, you just put a blank paper in the envelope. That night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there because he knew his collection. Means how many stamps or what date, but there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather. This is yet another point of science fiction. A travel character travels to the past, then he mails something from that time to those persons who were alive at that time. And surprisingly, if they had any collection, the first day covers goes in that collection. So this is impossible becoming possible. Like you go 50 years back, means your friend has traveled 50 years back when your granddad was alive, and he writes to your granddad from that point of time. Your granddad will receive it at that point of time. And if you see his collection in present, you will find obviously that letter in that collection. It is home in Galsburg. That's what the address on the envelope said, and it had been there since July 18, 1894. Surprisingly, how did not he who know it? Charlie knew it. Reason? Science fiction. The postmark showed that, yet I didn't remember it at all. The stamp was 6 cent of 6 cent, dull brown with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to the granddad in the mail, it went straight into his collection and stayed there till I took it out and opened it. He didn't open it because he believed that inside there must have been a blank paper. But surprisingly, the paper inside wasn't blank. It read. So this is the letter that he got. 941 Willard Street, Galsburg, Illinois, July 18, 1894. So it is addressed to Charlie. I got to wishing, it means I always wanted to wish that you were right. And I got to believing you were right. I had to believe that you were right. And Charlie, it's true, I found the third level. So this is sign of exclamation. It is an intense emotion. I have been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at Delhi's house, someone is playing a piano, and they are all out on the front porch singing the song, "Seeing Nelly Home," and I am invited over for a lemonade, laminated water. They would have it. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Come back to the third level. Keep looking till you find third level. It's worth the effort, believe me. So he was assuring them. The note is signed Sam. At the stamp and coin store I go to, means where he exchanged money, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. So much that ought to set him right up in a nice little hay feed and grain business. Again, business of pulses, wheat, etc. He always said that's what he really wished he could do. So Sam was a psychiatrist, but not by choice. And if he was not that by choice, so he was half performing whatever he was doing. So when you do what you wish doing, you are at yourself. You're at your best, you're at your comfort, you are happy with yourself, and he certainly can't go back to his old business. So what is the old business that he did in the 20th century? And what was it? Psychiatry. And what is psychiatry? Is a specialization in mental disorder, and psychiatrist is a physician who specializes in this, not in Galsberg illness. Why he could not do uh, uh, practice psychiatry? Because in 1894 there was no tension. There was emotional ventilation through long social interaction, and above all, there was piece. So it was all about the third level. It's a science fiction. We have seen there is a traveling across time and space. People move to different level. Charlie and Sam both were uh, to third level, two different time. That is 1894. But you have to keep this in mind. It is a science fiction, and anything can happen in this genre.